You know the drill. Oh, belly rub. Okay, you can have a belly rub for 10 seconds and then we gotta film. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, come here, you little stinky butt. Stinky butt. Why are you wet? Hi guys, we are back with another video. I am here with my trusty Pug Pudge, who smells like a wet puppy. You smell like a wet puppy. I have cute aggression. Bless you. Anywho, I have a fun video for you today. I feel like I've been showing a lot of rehabs and struggling plants on this channel lately, and I just need to balance it a little bit. So I am going to show you 8 plants with new leaves that I'm very excited about right now. I've tried so hard to not show the duplicates that I show all the time on this channel. You guys know who I'm talking about. We're talking about the main players here: the Philodendron Glorious, the Philodendron Majestic, the Philodendron Florida Beauty, the Philodendron Gloriosum round dark form. You know, the ones that I always show on this channel. So I do have 2 plants in this roster that unfortunately I do show a lot on this channel, but I just, you know, I don't want to leave out some of my favorites, like my legit favorites that have new leaves that I'm very, very, very excited about right now. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh my gosh, you are shedding like crazy. Hold on, hold on. I think I can pull this thing out. Gosh, there's dog hair all over me. Okay, so yeah, let's just get started. I'm gonna pull out the first one. Don't knock over my camera, kid. Come sit right here. No, not on me. Come over here. Sit. Sit. No, I did not mean I was gonna give you a belly rub. Jeez Louise, child. Sit. Oh my word. Gotta love the persistence. Respect it. Okay, so the first one is, do you know what this is? It's good? Okay. So the first one is this MONSTERA ESQUELETO. I believe I potted this on camera. I think this is one of the plants that I used when I was filming the first part of my lazy pole video, when we were still using the old hooks before we hive mined and did the one that is like so much easier. But I've kept it on. It works. I didn't see a need to like disassemble it and throw it away and waste material. So yeah, it's responded really, really well to this pole. And when I first got it onto the pole, this was the leaf that we were working with. I believe this was the first leaf that came out after the stem was chopped. Oh, sorry, what? This was the first leaf that came out from the stem prop, and I was working with the stem that was about this big, I think. And then came this leaf here, and then this one, and then this one. And honestly, the progression of the leaf growth has been just pretty tremendous. Honestly, I haven't really had to do much. I don't fertilize a ton in this substrate. I just use whatever's in my pump spray, the little concoction that I have in my pump spray, which is just liquid gold leaf, CalMag, and a little bit of Marfil. And I just spray the pole and spray the top, and it seems to not mind it. But yeah, just incredible leaf growth in such a short amount of time, to go from this leaf to this leaf. Like, it's kind of wild. And Alice has a prop from this plant as well, and hers is getting really large. This plant surprised me because I have not been the best with monsteras. I did terrible with the Monstera spruciana. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you know that I started this very brutal trend where you chop those long runners off of your Scindapsus. It started with the spruciana. That was the first plant I ever did it with. It was just supposed to be a one-time thing. I walked over to my exo, I saw this long runner on my spruciana, I chopped it off, and then I just chucked it at a wall as hard as I could, and then everyone else started doing it, and I was like, oh no, what have I done? Monstera sprucianas, they are such beautiful plants. I'm gonna throw in a photo here if you've never seen one. A lot of the spruces that you see being sold are like little tiny plants, and you can't really tell sort of the potential that it has, but it's got this really dark leaf color. It's got this amazing venation on it. It just, the way that it hangs is so beautiful. I love that plant so much, but I will never ever own it again. That thing is notorious for pushing out runners, like even with a pull, even with like perfect conditions, whatever you want to call it, it just does not want to give you a new leaf. The MONSTERA adansonii, that one has not really grown well for me historically, but honestly, I was never really a fan of putting the adansonii on a pole. I've really loved those big trailing baskets, but whenever I have tried to do a trailing basket, runners, bunch of runners, is so annoying. So I just kind of nixed all of those plants from my collection. Oh my gosh, Pudge. So when I acquired this plant, I did not really have high hopes at all, to be honest. I didn't think that I would even get fenestrations for a really long time, but this one has grown like a dream. My other one is growing a lot slower, but this one has just been, yeah, wild. So as you can see, this one is in a no drainage vessel. It's in a pretty dense soil because I knew that I was going to grow this one in my tent, which is very hot. Everything in there dries out pretty fast, even though it's really humid. So this was one that I just didn't want to worry about. I didn't add as much amendments or as many amendments to the soil, and yeah, it's taken really well to it. You can see, I think you can see some of the roots that are just like wrapped around the bottom here. Obviously, like I said, I've got this one on a lazy pole. The internodes are very tight, which is why this plant goes all the way up here to the top of this lazy pole, but the stem is actually still down here. So I still have quite a ways to go until this actually outgrows the pole, which is nice. It's just gonna be so funny to see like a plant that's super tall with a pole that's really tiny. I'm not sure if the internodes are gonna get longer as it matures, but right now, yeah, they're super close. Like there's no way that I'd even be able to chop this if I tried. The only thing that I will say is that this one did not appreciate being in very high light, meaning having direct rays from the grow light. So now I have this sort of tucked in the very back of my tent where it's being shaded by a lot of other plants, and it's really only getting what's diffused around the tent, but it's not getting any direct light. When I had it in brighter light, the leaves started to bleach like this, and then this one was grown in the back of the tent. It's not like a super dark leaf, but I'm also not getting like this yellow yellow sort of haloing and whatever around it. So yeah, darker conditions would be my recommendation. I don't know if everyone else has that same experience, but that's definitely been my experience. It's been Alice's experience, I believe. I think we talked about this plant. And yeah, get it on a pole. Fertilization, I don't remember if I mentioned this, but I'm not fertilizing a ton in the substrate right now. It's just whatever comes out of my sprayer, and then I just spray this moss pole with whatever is in my sprayer as well. I did mention this in another video, how I'm not really fertilizing in my substrate a ton right now because I'm too lazy to make batches of fertilizer water. Really, I like to just go around with my sprayer that has a quarter dilution of my 3 fertilizers that I'm using right now, and it's like whatever the plant is getting, that's what it's getting. But I am starting to mix a lot of the Osmocote slow release fertilizer into my plants, and a lot of them have taken well to it, and it's been so much easier for me to not have to worry about fertilizing. I've had pretty tremendous growth on plants that were otherwise kind of somewhat dormant or just not really sizing up a bunch. So the Osmocote has been working really well. But yeah, that's this guy. No complaints really. He's been pretty good to me. Sorry, I don't want to show you the new leaf yet, but this is my ANTHURIUM VITTARIFOLIUM. It's actually very thirsty. You can see some of the leaves are curling like taquitos. It's in tree fern fiber. I transitioned this one, I believe, from moss to tree fern fiber maybe a month ago. This one was my VITTARIFOLIUM that was growing inside of a greenhouse all the time, and it's grown so much better than a lot of my other anthuriums that are just out in my living room and stuff. When I moved it to my anthurium shelf in my plant room, it suffered a little bit. I got some yellowing leaves. I had leaves that fell off, and there were 2 leaves that came before this new one that I'm about to show you. This is yeah, this is one of the newer ones, and it emerged in the plant room, but it dried out like severely, and you can just see how like parched and dry it is at the bottom. Yeah, there was a little bit of growing pains with this one moving out of a greenhouse, and I was actually quite scared to move this one out of a greenhouse because I loved how much it was growing. It was pushing out growth like every single, I don't know, like every 3 weeks it was like a new leaf was coming. But anyway, I'm just going to show you this now because I'm not even showing you the plant. But this is the newest leaf to come out on it, and the size growth is, it's pretty, I would say it was pretty drastic compared to where we were at before. This is the first one that has successfully grown in the plant room in low humidity and very, very high temperatures. You can see how soft it is right now. It's still hardening off. I think this thing is gonna probably come down to maybe right here. I don't know if it's gonna get wider, but it's a very, very thin leaf. It's so dark. It's big. I'm shook. I would love to get more of these long strappy leaves. This is still one of my favorite anthuriums of all time. It was one of the first strap leaf anthuriums that I fell in love with even before the Pallidiflorum, and I find this so much easier than the Pallidiflorum. But yeah, I just was so stunned to see this one come out and see how large it was, considering it's not growing in a greenhouse. And I just recently moved it to tree fern fiber. I don't have many anthuriums in tree fern fiber. I do have some. I have this one. I have one of my hybrids from Amanda. I have a Forgetii in tree fern fiber. So I'm still kind of observing how tree fern fiber does with anthuriums, but honestly, it's so far so good. Like all of the anthuriums that are in tree fern fiber are doing really well. They've got beautiful roots on them. I will just say though that my plants in tree fern fiber are the only ones that I'm actually spending the time to fertilize in the substrate. I'll just make like a little bottle of fertilizer water and just go around with my tree fern fiber plants and just give them a little bit of a boost. But yeah, I mean, it seems to not mind it. This leaf is huge. I love it so much. You know who made me fall in love with the Vittarifolium was Amanda Ray Wright. She was one of the first like plant people that I followed on Instagram before I even started my plant Instagram. So I've been following her since maybe 2018. And she has this beautiful Vittarifolium. She used to do these videos where she would just like go up close and just do like a stroke. And I was like, I need that plant and I need it now. Hers is still going strong. It's a beautiful strappy plant. She just has it growing out in her, like, I don't know, like in one of her rooms. So yeah, I aspire to have a Vittarifolium that looks like Amanda's. Otherwise, nothing really much else to say about this. I'm just extra excited about it because it has grown in the new conditions. It's growing outside of a greenhouse. And honestly, I'm just, as difficult as it was to deal with a lot of dead leaves, a crazy spider mite outbreak, like we just really went through it on that anthurium shelf. I did not think I was gonna run into that many hiccups, but I feel like we are finally coming out of that growing pain stage, and the anthuriums are starting to show me that they're okay with being out there. We're kind of getting into a good groove. I did have to remove some of the lights because I think it was a little bit too bright. It was a little bit too warm. I would love to drop the temperatures a little bit for the anthuriums. So, you know, we're learning, we're getting there. It's definitely a process. I've never grown anthuriums in the number that I am now outside of a controlled environment, well, like highly controlled environment. So I was just really appreciative to see this leaf, and it was almost like this guy was telling me it's gonna be okay. We're gonna figure it out and it's gonna be okay. So I just love a soft strap leaf, anthurium leaf. Like there's nothing like it. Oh, it's so nice, it's so buttery and soft. Okay, I'm gonna stop fondling this plant now. I'm so sleepy. It's such a gloomy day today, and it's raining, and for the first time ever, I'm like thoroughly enjoying it. Like I'm so happy to see rain today. But Plants make me very lazy. Okay. Pull up the granny pants. Okay, so the next one I'm going to show you is a philodendron. Wow, this one's thirsty. And I need to extend this pole, not extend it, but add more moss. This, wow, looks so bushy. I haven't pulled this out of the EXO in so long. This is my variegated sodiroi, my mosaic virus sodiroi, as everyone likes to call it. I'm not going to go into it because I've talked about it a bunch of times, but I love this plant, okay? I love it so much. This is the newest leaf to come out on it. I have mentioned previously how I have found please hold. I thought it was a thripsis, but it's just a piece of moss, thank goodness. Okay, so I have mentioned how I found, I don't know if it's just the specimen I have, but I have found this plant to be so hard to size up. Like, I've had it on a pole for a while. I think that I've always had this on a pole, but all of the leaves were like, obviously a lot of the leaves have died off now because I've had this plant for quite a while. I think I acquired this plant in 2020, like the beginning of 2020, maybe even 2019. I can't 100% remember, maybe the end of 2019, but all of the leaves were like this size for so long, despite being on a pole, despite being inside of a greenhouse, being in, you know, what I thought were really good conditions. And I just did not, I couldn't size it up. It was just like the tiniest little thing. Like even my SODIRINI sized up faster than this thing. But then I got it onto a lazy pole. I started doing the regular feedings with CalMag and liquid gold leaf. I added mycorrhizal inoculants to the substrate. And I think that's really when things started to look a little bit better for me. After this leaf right here came this one, which was significantly larger than that one. You can see it down there. And then it pushed out this one down here with a lot of that sort of like damaged DNA, wonky variegation. And then it pushed out this one that had almost no variegation at all. It just looks like a regular sodiroi. And now we're here. I find that this one does the sort of every other thing, where it pushes out a leaf with not a lot of that damaged DNA variegation, and then it'll push out a leaf that has just like so much of it. So I like that it's been keeping that balance, because a lot of the times with these variegated sodiroids, too much of this damaged DNA just makes the plant look so mangled. So I feel like I've been lucky in that this one has just a good balance, and it looks, I don't know, I would say that this looks like a pretty healthy plant. The leaves aren't mangled, like they look like nice, healthy leaves to me. I think that we're finally starting to see some size growth. This one is still very soft. It only fully unfurled out of its little taquito shape maybe 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And yeah, still very, very soft, delicate. I don't want to touch it too much. But yeah, I think this one is going to be the biggest leaf so far. And I'm really, really just excited to see some growth on it, because I love big sodiroi leaves. I've just never been able to get them that size, and I've never imported one because they've kind of been like historically pretty expensive. And I was like, well, I already have one, like there's no point really in trying to import another one. And because I struggled so much with sizing this one up, I didn't really want to have 2 sodirois to work on as a project to get nice and big. So my main focus has been on this one, and I think I'm finally starting to see the fruits of my labor, which is really great. But some people just grow really big sodiroi and it's totally fine for them. They just, even some growing without a pole, or that are just on like a bamboo stake with no moss, no nothing. I have mine with the works. You can see a lot of that nice root growth in there. But I don't know, maybe by the end of the year we'll have a leaf that is hopefully the size of my head. That's the goal. I think that I'm definitely on a good track. It's just this one dries out so fast. It's a very, very thirsty plant. Also keep in mind that this moss pole is submerged pretty low. It's inside of the substrate. It goes down to maybe right here. So when I do water, I water a little bit more than I would. Like normally I'd put the water level like right here, but I normally fill it to like about here because the moss takes in a lot of that water, and then I still have some left over for the roots in the substrate. It's getting significantly thicker. You can see down here sort of how skinny the stem is, and then when you go up here, it is come on, it's a little bit thicker. It's not super thick, but it's definitely thicker than down at the bottom. And I gotta just like handle all of these roots. I try and direct these ones in the front into the back, but if I had a strap in the front of this, it would help a lot. So I gotta give this one a little bit of TLC. I have sort of neglected some of the plants in my exos because, I don't know, sometimes they're a little bit too self-sustaining and then I get really lax. But yeah, I don't like that this node right here is exposed now. I want to make sure to get the moss level about right here, and then I'll get another strap to enclose that humidity in, and I might try and make these straps a little bit thicker. The reason that they're so thin is because the internodes were really close and I didn't know how I could strap it all in with thick straps. But it's a nice looking specimen. I mean, it's held on to so many leaves. This one does not drop many leaves. I think, I don't know, maybe in the last, like in 2022, I think I've only lost one leaf on this, honestly, and that would have been like last month. So it's not like my other philodendrons where I notice that when a new leaf is coming in, the lower one will drop, kind of like alocasias. This one has been able to kind of sustain the leaves for a lot longer. And again, same fertilizing regimen. I'm not fertilizing a ton in the substrate. I do spray with my sprayer a little bit, but I'm not standing there for like 5 minutes trying to fill this whole thing up with sprayer water. I am just spraying like every other day the pole with my my fertilizer concoction, adding a little bit to the substrate, but that's pretty much it. I think that this one could probably use even more fertilizer. Once I repot this, I do plan on adding the slow release fertilizer. I can tell that I potted this one a long time ago because I have tons of leca mixed into the pond, and I don't really do that anymore. In place of the leca, I have added more coarse perlite. I don't plan on repotting this until it reaches the top of the pole because it's not super root bound in here and I don't think it really needs it. So I'm really only trying to touch my plants and repot when it absolutely is time to do it. And I don't really have any other choice. Nothing much else to say about this, just kind of wanted to show you and kind of show this new leaf off because she's so cute. Okay, next one up is an anthurium. This is my anthurium, what sellers are calling a dark phoenix or what collectors are calling a dark phoenix, but I believe a more accurate name is just saying it's some kind of Anthurium papillilaminum hybrid. This leaf is so dark, like you can't even see texture on it. Anyway, so this is actually my mother plant. This is what's left of my dark phoenix. I did chop it. I propagated 2 cuttings of it that I think have both sprouted a new leaf now. But yeah, this is my main plant. It died back to a stump. It got spider mites. It just had this weird sort of fungal thing that took over all the leaves. They were all turning this bright yellow color with little splotches of yellow. So I didn't want to risk infecting my other plants. I knew that I had a good sized stem to work with, so I just chopped off all the leaves and I started over. And the new leaf came out pretty soon after I chopped it. I didn't expect it to come out so soon, but you can see that it struggled a bit coming out of the sheath because this would have been the first leaf to come out in lower humidity on my anthurium shelf in my plant room. When it was furled up as a little taquito, I wasn't spraying a lot because I did not even know the leaf was coming. I had it tucked in the very back of the shelf where all my props are, and yeah, didn't know it was there until it was too late. So as it was unfurling, that sort of sticky residue that holds the leaf together didn't loosen enough, which is why I like to spray when emergent leaves are coming, especially in low humidity. It just took a little bit of a hit. You can kind of see where it just ripped it wide open. But I would say that this is a pretty decent sized leaf for coming from a leafless stick. And I'm just hoping that I can grow this one back to its former glory, because I will say that this is one of my favorite anthuriums in my collection. Jing's is so big. I'm gonna throw in a photo of hers here. She's actually who I got this plant from. And hers has been growing like a dream. She has it growing in pond. I think I would prefer to grow this one in pond, but I don't want to risk it anymore. I just have it in soil. It's doing somewhat okay in soil. We'll see sort of where it goes. I think that my other props are in pond though, so I can at least experiment with one Dark Phoenix in pond, and then I'll just keep this one in soil. But yeah, just love everything about this plant. I love the leaf color, I love the venation, I love the shape of the leaf, I love the sinus. When they get really big, they like overlap, and Jing's has now overlapped, I believe. But it's kind of funny because I've had these leaves, like I've had new leaves come with like a wide sinus, and I'm just like, okay, what is happening here? But I'm just happy that it's alive. I'm happy that I didn't lose the plant completely. I'm glad that I propagated it, because this is definitely a plant that I would love to have doubles of. Although I think that I could get a pretty like gnarly trade for one of the pups that I separated. I have a hard time separating myself from propagations, because I don't know, I find propagations to be so cute. Like you see it through from beginning to what it turns into, and I sort of get a little bit attached to it, especially when it's a plant that I love so much. I want to give one of my props to my sister, but she's very nervous about having a plant like this in her collection. She says she doesn't want to kill it, and she'd rather like I trade or I sell it and actually like get money for it. But I don't know, I'm not really into selling plants these days. I would much rather do a trade or just keep it. I don't know what it is. I'm just not really into selling. I'm just glad that she's back from the dead. She came just in time for summer, and I'm hoping that we see some leaf growth, because yeah, the old leaves on it before it died back were about this large, and it was just incredible. It was one of those anthuriums that I could not believe I had in my collection. I was just like, what are you doing in my house? I don't deserve you. And I'm gonna be more careful this time. We're gonna take a little anthurium philodendron break, and I'm gonna insert one alocasia, and I think you guys probably know which one it is. This is one of the plants that I was telling you is a repeat plant. I show it all the time, but I have to. I can't do a new leaf video without showing you guys my alocasia FRYDEK. I'm so pleased with this plant, it's not even funny. Like I look at her and I'm just like, are you just so like willing to be alive and healthy, or can I take credit for this? I don't know, because it's been such an easygoing plant. I've already done my care advice on this, so I'm not gonna go into it again. I believe I talked about it in my no drainage video, and I think I talked about it in some other video. You're gonna have to find it. Go on a scavenger hunt, you will find it. But yeah, I don't really have the words for this plant. I just love it. I love it more than I thought I ever would, and it's just, it has incredible genetics. Like the variegation on this plant is wild. Let's go through each of the leaves. Like I think this is one of my favorite leaves. It has so much white and it hasn't started to brown at all, and it's one of the older ones. Same with this one. Plant is unreal. This is the one with the lowest variegation, which I don't mind because I do want a good healthy balance of green on this plant. I don't want it to be completely without chlorophyll. This is the second to newest leaf. It is a pretty good size. I love this sort of like milky green texture that like bleeds into this dark green. What this reminds me of, like right here, is sort of like if you're looking at a map in what's that view called? aerial view. God, I'm stupid. You know, when you're looking at it, like what it actually looks like with all the trees and stuff, it looks like you're looking at a map, or it looks like you're looking at like a little island from really far away. Like these are the trees, this is the water, this is like the coast, like where the beach is, and these are like little islands. Like tell me that does not look like a painting of like a beach. You'll never look at them the same again. And then we have the newest leaf, which has a ton of yellow. It's strange because all of these leaves emerged white and then some emerge yellow like this, and not all of them stay the yellow color. Some of them do turn white, whereas this one by now should have turned white, but it stayed yellow. So I don't really know what the deal is with that, but it's kind of like I have like an Aurea FRYDEK and like an Albo FRYDEK in one plant, and I'm so freaking pleased with it. This one is in no drainage. I haven't repotted it in a while, but it's definitely overdue for a repot. And the way that oh, there's a corm. There's a corm. Where are you? Right here. It's so big. It's so big and juicy. That one's going to my mom. So yeah, it's been in this vessel for a long time, and the way that I know that it's ready to be repotted is when the roots start coming upward, because it's got nowhere else to go down here. I would be lying if I told you I wasn't nervous as hell to repot this one. I think for this one, I'm going to do a very, very non-invasive pot. I'm not even gonna really loosen a lot of this pon from the root ball. I'm going to try and pluck it out as seamlessly and carefully as possible. And I'm just gonna loosen it a little. I'm gonna loosen it a little bit. I'll probably squeeze it a bit and then just pluck it into a brand new pot with more pon, because I don't really want to disturb all of this. I don't want all of these hairline roots to fall off. I almost want to trick it into thinking it hasn't been repotted, because I can't lose this plant. I can't do it. I can't. I would be so devastated. I can't remember if this plant ever had any thrips or spider mites during my infestation. I feel like this was one of them that sort of just breezed through it and was like, nope, not me. You're not getting me. It's not my time. It's just been a dream. It's so easy, guys. This plant is so easy. It requires light and water. I do fertilize a little bit with the stuff in my sprayer, but this one does not have any slow release in it. It's just held on to all these leaves. I will say that it's very important that you have light that is also coming from above, or else the leaves will droop. They will droop. If you don't give it a sufficient light from overhead, these petioles will get very, very, very long, and you'll end up with a wonky alocasia that you might have to use like a piece of like a stake to hold the petioles up, because it's going to be so long. So yeah, this one is in my tent. It is sitting front and center. It's got a nice 10-watt light bar right above it. It has two 10-watt light bars on either side of it, and it's just kind of getting light from all around, which is why it's got such a beautiful sort of like growing pattern. It's all sort of facing forward where those two light bars are. The only time that it really droops is when it's thirsty. But yeah, this is one that I'm definitely more neurotic about giving water. I don't let this one dry out pretty much ever. Every time I post this, or every time I show this plant on my channel, I get a lot of people that tag me on their stories. Like they take photos of me like on their computer or on their TV, and they're like, oh my god, this plant. And honestly, I don't blame you. It's so beautiful. I don't know where I would be in life without this plant. So anyway, quick feature, I gotta take a photo of this one. This is insane. I feel like I can never really get a good photo of it. Like it just doesn't do it justice, you know? I don't know how to take the perfect photo of this plant. But I'm gonna go do that now before I forget. Okay, so we've got 3 left. Another one that I show way too much, but I gotta do it. No new leaf video is going to be complete without showing you guys what is new on my SODIRINI. Just a quick backstory on this one in case you've missed it in the 5 million other videos that I have mentioned this. The first time I ever showed this plant on a lazy pole was in December of 2021. It was the first plant I ever got on a lazy pole. This was the plant that inspired the lazy pole. I think this is why I am so attached to this plant and why I love it so much. It just kind of changed a lot of things for me. It changed the way that I looked at poles and how I could grow them in my space efficiently, and we've got a great relationship. So yeah, it's been extended twice now and repotted twice. I chopped it and got it on a new pole, oh gosh, back in May, I think. So yeah, it's doing phenomenal. Like, it's got so many of these roots, and I think in a repot and chat I'm going to get the plastic straps over it so that it encloses some of these, but I got to get this back into the greenhouse stat because I don't want these fuzzy roots to dry out. But of course I just had to quickly show you. So you can see down here back in like April, May, we were just kind of working with these pretty normal looking leaves, and then it pushed out this one. This was one of the first leaves that came out where I was noticing some size difference, and then it pushed out this one, if I can grab it, about the same size. This one was significantly larger than this one and was showing just so much of like Sodiroy in it. And this is the newest one to come out, which is so big, and I freaking ripped it. So you can see it's really close to these really gnarly like edges. So yeah, it ripped through it as it was emerging, and I didn't notice it fast enough. So got 3 gaping holes in there, but look at the size of this thing, like in comparison to my hand. Whereas like down here, like this is how big the leaf was, and now we're here. So I'm thrilled. It's starting to just look like a Sodiroy, and I didn't know, but when I first got this plant, that it had the potential to even get as large as a Sodiroy. But after doing some research, reading some posts that Bill Rodolante posted about it, because he's the one that was working on it in the lab, yeah, they can look just like a Sodiroy given the right conditions and just given enough time. But the exciting part is that up until this leaf, the newest one that came out, they were coming out of petiolar sheaths, meaning they emerge from the sheath in the petiole, and then they come out and they grow and whatever. But I have my first cataphyll. Do you guys see it? So it is now, this leaf is basically the last juvenile leaf on this plant. That's how you know that it goes out of juvenile to mature form, or like its mature phases is when it goes from a petiolar sheath to a cataphyll. So I was like, I know this thing is getting big, but I wasn't really expecting a cataphyll for a long time, and she has arrived, she's here. So I think over the summer we can probably expect this plant to size up a lot, as long as I'm upkeeping the pole, I'm upkeeping fertilizing, and I am not freaking rotting it. This one is in drainage holes with soil, doing great. It is slowly outgrowing this pole now, so this would have been the 3rd pole that it's been on. So I think after this new leaf comes out, I'm gonna have to repot it, and I do plan on getting it on the newer lazy poles that's made with plastic. I just think it's time because for one, I really love this pole because it's worked so well. It is so much easier to assemble than the plastic ones. Oh God, sheath, I'm so nervous. It's like sitting right at the edge of this pokey thing. Move! I really like these poles because of the ease of assembling and disassembling it, but I will say that I'm not a fan of how sort of dangerous this is to be around a brand new leaf that is so delicate. So I think it's time to get it on that plastic one. I can enclose more of those roots. I can enclose it in the front as well, and I think that's going to help beef up this plant. But honestly, it's getting so close in size to my variegated Sodiroy. I think it still has a good amount more of growing to go, and I'm just so happy. I'm so happy that I figured this plant out. I'm happy that I was able to kind of share with you guys what works for me. I talked about it in, a few of my most easygoing philodendrons video, which was posted 3 weeks ago. So I go in depth about the care of this plant. So give that a watch if you have this plant and are struggling with it. But yeah, of course I had to show you because I was just blown away when this leaf came out. I did feature this plant obviously in that video, and it was still coming out of the petiolar sheath, but I think I mentioned in that video I was like, I think it's gonna be big because this is one of the biggest emergent leaves that I've had, like, you know, as it's still like furled up. I just noticed that it was a lot longer than any of these leaves that I've ever seen on this plant, and sure enough, here we are. I'm just very, 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 very happy. I just wish that it didn't freaking rip. Plants grow, so I'll get over it. The next one is the last Anthurium I am going to feature in this video. I would have shown this, oh gosh, you know what? I think this video is gonna go up before my next week of, is it? Lost track now. I don't know if it's gonna go up before or after this video. I'd have to look at my schedule. But this is that Anthurium that I featured in the plants that I don't show very often on my channel. And this one was being circulated online as a Papillilaminum hybrid. And I did kind of see how it could be that hybrid, although I wasn't really seeing either Papi or Requiem in this sinus. So I just, you know, I almost got rid of this plant so many times because it just didn't spark a lot of joy, but I was just very curious to see what it would look like more mature. So all of the leaves in my care have looked like this. Trying to not show the new leaf. That's the other one. It's always looked like this. This is all I've known about this plant in terms of how it looks like. But the new leaf that came out was like, let me show you. Who is she? Where did she come from? This looks like two totally different plants. Like that sinus. Hello, hi, you can see me. It looks so different. Like what the heck? The venation changed, the sinus changed, the leaf shape changed. It's like so much wider. Like these ones are like long and skinny, whereas like this one's like really like chunky up here. And it's got kind of got these little wings, and the venation is so like neon and bright, and I'm freaking blown away. I love it so much, and I'm so glad that I kept it because I never in a million years would have guessed that it would turn into this, honestly. I kind of thought this sinus would widen up a little bit and kind of do the Requiem lobes where they're like, they can kind of touch, but I did not know we were gonna have like spread eagle sinus, and I did not expect this venation. Like, look at how silver and bright this is. It protrudes a lot. Like, it's very, very, very like prominent. Just compare the venation. Like this one is very subtle, very thin, very like just kind of discreet, whereas this one's like bam. It's kind of giving like regale venation to me in terms of the brightness of it and just how vibrant it looks, I guess. And I'm just really loving all of the details here with the venation, because you definitely don't get that at all in the previous leaves. It's like, it's just so unsuspecting. I swear, like if you put these two leaves next to each other, I bet you a lot of people would say it's not the same plant, but it's on the same plant, I promise you. I'm not trying to trick you guys, but thank goodness I held on to it. I love it very much. It's beautiful. I think that it's got a long way to go. I believe Lauren has this hybrid in her shop, and impeccable, just beautiful, and I'm so grateful to have it. I always knew something good was coming, and here she is. It's gonna be a great summer. This last one is not so much a new favorite leaf. It's kind of more of an honorable mention because I did show this in my video where, gosh, sorry, my voice is starting to go out. It would have been one of my week of plant to-dos, part 1. and I will throw up the thumbnail very small right here. And that's when I went to Erin's house with Jing and Alice. We cleaned out Erin's tent completely. We got rid of a lot of plants. She gave us a lot of plants. And she had this gloriosum that was propped from a perfectly healthy gloriosum, and it pushed out this leaf right here. I was not saying it was variegated. I was not saying that at all. I actually was super convinced that it was just some kind of virus. And I do have this isolated from my other plants, like way in the corner of my plant room. But I just kind of wanted to see what was gonna happen. I like to study a lot of plants. I was like, don't throw it out, because she was just gonna throw it away. But I just wanted to see if this would continue through the whole plant. I was even considering having it tested and just biting the bullet with the cost, because it's actually quite expensive. But yeah, I just really wanted to know. So anyway, this was the first leaf that came out of the stem prop. And then this leaf came out of it. And you can see it's just got sort of like hints of that sort of like virus looking speckles, but not a ton. Like compared to this one, it's like almost night and day. You probably wouldn't even be able to tell from far away that this has any sort of like variegation or like, you know, whatever. But this is the brand new leaf. Nothing. Perfectly healthy. Totally normal looking gloriosum, and this venation is so bright and beautiful. I can't. It's gorge. So I don't know, guys. I don't know. What's that all about? A few people had commented and wanted to know what I was going to do with this plant. They wanted to know if I was going to get it tested and do all that stuff. But I knew that before I bit the bullet to get the plant tested or whatever, I just wanted to kind of see the new leaves come out and see if it was like very sporadic. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the next leaf that came after this looked more like this. So I think eventually I still want to get it tested, and I want to get it tested before this leaf dies off. I'm just, you know, I've mentioned it in other videos, I'm trying to not spend money right now because I'm slowly getting things paid down, and I'm gonna be in a place again where I can really set aside money to save money for a house, which was the point of this YouTube channel. So I'm trying very, very, very hard to control my spending. So that's one reason why I haven't gotten it tested. Otherwise, if I was just flowing in cash, I'd be like, oh yeah, take it, here you go, have the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know, I just wanted to mention it because I thought it was super interesting how it just completely changed from this to that. Totally normal. So anyway, those are all of the new leaves that I'm very excited about. I do have a ton of more leaves that I wish I could have shown you, but one, I don't want to have another really long video. Two, I want to save some of them for a video I'm doing in a few weeks. I want to do an October favorites update just to kind of show you what those plants are looking like now from last October. So yeah, I wanted to save a few, but I think that if you watch my week of plant to-dos and you really look carefully, you can see a lot of the new leaves that are coming out, and it's just been a great spring. It's been a great start into summer. So many of my plants are doing really well. They're just kind of bouncing back. I can tell they're just a lot stronger right now. And you know, we've gone through it. We had the thrips outbreak, we had the spider mite outbreak, which I'm still dealing with mealybugs in the Rudsta, and you know, dealing with growing pains in the plant room with the new Anthurium shelf. And so I'm still doing a lot of tweaking. I've removed a lot of lights, removed all the lights from my shelf. I removed lights from my plant shelf, and I'm just kind of cutting back on the grow lights in some areas because things are just, it's too hot, it's drying out really fast. So I'm in the process of kind of tweaking all of the environmental conditions around the apartment to sort of match with how much time I have to care for the plants, and also kind of the signs that they're showing me, you know, bleached leaves, drying out too fast, things like that. So it's always a work in progress, and I think it's always going to be a work in progress, to be honest, especially throughout the changing seasons. But otherwise, I'm so glad to see new growth. I just can't even, I mean, you guys obviously understand this hobby is just incredible. It's unlike so many hobbies out there, I feel like, in terms of like collecting or whatever, just because of the nature of it. They're always growing, they're changing, they always need care. It's a hobby that's constant. It's constant work, but in a lot of ways it's also constant gratification, whether it be you eliminating pests on a plant, whether you be rehabbing something that rotted, whether it be a new leaf on a plant that you know you just imported and you're excited about. Like, there's just always something to look forward to in this hobby. And yeah, I'm just so grateful to have all these new leaves that have rewarded me after months of what has felt like just constant care. But yeah, I am grateful for this channel. I'm grateful for you guys watching, because you've allowed me the freedom to sort of ease up on my other work so that I can focus more on YouTube, which I think a lot of people don't get that opportunity, especially so soon. You know, I've had this channel for a year and some change, and it's grown exponentially. It's grown way more than I ever would have imagined. It's all because of you guys. But yeah, that's it for today. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up because it helps us a lot on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.